In the cold winter of 1405, an old man lay dying in a tent somewhere in Kazakhstan. His leg was twisted and lame, his body burning with fever. Just months before, this same man was getting ready to attack China with 200,000 soldiers. His name was Timur, but most people called him Tamerlane. He was the man who killed 70,000 people and built towers with their skulls. Yet he also built some of the most beautiful buildings in the world. This is the story of the last great conqueror, a poor boy who became the ruler of a huge empire, an empire that stretched from Russia to India. He destroyed entire cities but also created amazing art and culture. Timur was born on April 9, 1336, in a small town called Kesh, near the famous city of Samarkand. The world he was born into was broken and violent. The great Mongol empire that Genghis Khan had built was falling apart. Different groups were fighting each other for power. Everyone wanted to be the next great ruler. His father was named Taragai. He was a small chief of a tribe called the Barlas. They were descendants of Mongol warriors who had come to Central Asia with Genghis Khan's armies. Young Timur grew up hearing amazing stories about his ancestors, stories about great battles and conquered cities. These stories filled his mind with big dreams. But Timur was different from other boys. When he was young, he got hurt badly during a fight. His right leg and right arm never worked properly again. People started calling him Timur the Lame. Instead of making him weak, this injury made him angry and determined. He decided that if his body was broken, his mind and will would be stronger than anyone else's. By the time he was in his 20s, Timur had gathered many followers. He was smart, brave, and ruthless. In the dangerous world of medieval Central Asia, these were the qualities that mattered most. In 1357, the ruler of his region died. This created chaos as different groups fought for control. Timur was clever. He knew when to fight and when to make deals. First, he worked for a powerful Khan named Tughluq Timur. Then he joined forces with his brother-in-law Amir Hussein. Together, they defeated their enemies and took control of the region around 1366. But Timur didn't want to share power with anyone. Around 1370, he turned against Hussein. He surrounded him in the city of Balkh until Hussein was killed. Now Timur was the sole ruler. He declared himself the rightful heir of Genghis Khan and said he would rebuild the Mongol Empire. By 1380, Timur had created the most fearsome army in the world. His soldiers were fast-moving horsemen with bows and arrows, just like the old Mongol warriors. But Timur added new weapons and tactics. His army could move incredibly fast across huge distances. They could capture cities with powerful siege machines. What made Timur truly terrifying was how he used fear as a weapon. When cities refused to surrender, he didn't just defeat them, he made examples of them. In 1387, the city of Isfahan rebelled against him. Timur's response was horrifying. He ordered his soldiers to kill 70,000 people. Then he had their skulls collected and built into 35 huge towers. These skull towers could be seen from miles away. This wasn't random violence. Timur was sending a message to every city in the world. Surrender to me or this will happen to you. At other cities like Sistan, he had people buried alive in towers made of mud and clay. In Baghdad, 90,000 heads were arranged into 120 towers of skulls. Word of these horrors spread across the known world. Many cities surrendered without a fight rather than face Timur's terrible revenge. In 1398, Timur decided to invade India. He claimed he was doing this because the Muslim rulers of Delhi were being too kind to their Hindu subjects. But really, he wanted India's legendary wealth. He crossed into India with 90,000 warriors on September 24th. Everywhere he went, he left behind death and destruction. The Sultan of Delhi, Mahmud Tughlaq, tried to stop him. The two armies met at a place called Panipat on December 17th, 1398. Timur's forces completely destroyed the Indian army. According to his own historians, 100,000 prisoners were killed in a single day before the attack on Delhi even began. Delhi, one of the greatest cities in India, was turned into ruins. It took more than 100 years for the city to recover. Timur's soldiers loaded treasure onto 90 captured elephants and took it all back to Samarkand. For Timur, this wasn't just conquest. He believed he was doing God's work by conquering other Muslims who weren't strict enough in their faith. By 1400, Timur's reputation had spread everywhere. Even kings in Europe had heard of him. Some Christian rulers wondered if they could make deals with him to fight against their Ottoman enemies. They didn't realize that Timur wanted to destroy everyone, Christians and Muslims alike. Timur's invasion of Syria and Iraq in 1400 to 1401 showed that he could defeat the greatest powers of his time. The Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt had been unbeatable for over 100 years, but their armies fell apart when they faced Timur's forces. The ancient city of Baghdad, once the center of Islamic learning and culture, fell to Timur's siege. He ordered 20,000 of its people killed and destroyed all its beautiful buildings and libraries. Centuries of knowledge and art were lost forever. But Timur's greatest victory was still to come. His enemy was Bayezid I, known as the Thunderbolt. Bayezid was the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire and the most feared ruler in Europe. On July 20th, 1402, the two armies met near the city of Ankara in Turkey. Timur showed his genius as a military leader. Before the battle even started, he convinced some of Bayezid's own soldiers to switch sides. When the fighting began, the Ottoman army fell apart. Bayezid himself was captured and became Timur's prisoner. The proud Ottoman Sultan, who had never lost a battle, was now at the mercy of the limping conqueror from Central Asia. Some European writers said Bayezid was kept in a golden cage, but the truth was probably worse. He had to watch as his empire nearly collapsed while his sons fought each other for the throne. Bayezid died in captivity in March 1403, broken and defeated. The strange thing about Timur was that the same man who built towers of skulls also created incredible beauty. He made Samarkand into one of the most magnificent cities in the world. Using wealth from his conquests and artists he had captured from other cities, he built amazing mosques, palaces, and gardens. The Bibi Kanyam Mosque was so huge that travelers said they could see its dome from a day's journey away. The stones for it were carried by 90 elephants from India. His tomb, called Gur-e-Amir, was decorated with beautiful blue tiles and golden decorations. It was like paradise on earth. It's hard to understand how someone could create such beauty while also being so violent. But for Timur, war and art were both ways to show his power and glory. In December 1404, at age 68, Timur began his most ambitious campaign yet. He decided to invade China, the largest and most advanced empire in the world. The Chinese emperor had been preparing for this attack for years. He had hundreds of thousands of soldiers and advanced weapons. Timur gathered 200,000 men for this invasion. They would have to march through some of the coldest, most dangerous territory on earth. But as his army moved through the freezing winter of Central Asia, Timur became sick. His body, which had carried him through 40 years of constant warfare, was finally giving up. On February 17, 1405, in a small fort town called Otrar, death finally caught up with the great conqueror. Timur died of fever and illness just as his army was about to enter China. His death ended an era. He was the last of the great nomad conquerors who had shaped world history for over 1,000 years. When news of Timur's death spread, it changed everything. His sons and grandsons immediately started fighting over his empire. Without his personal leadership, the vast territories he had conquered began to break apart. But Timur's legacy lived on in ways he never expected. His great-great-grandson Babur would use the lessons learned from Timur to conquer India and found the Mughal Empire. This empire would rule India for over 300 years and build the famous Taj Mahal. The cultural golden age that flowered in Samarkand after Timur's death became one of the great periods in Islamic history. His grandson Ulugh Beg built an observatory and created star charts so accurate that European astronomers were still using them 200 years later. Today, Uzbekistan honors Timur as a national hero. They have built statues of him and celebrate his achievements while trying not to talk too much about his violent methods. This shows how even the most brutal historical figures can be remembered differently by later generations. Timur remains one of history's most fascinating and terrifying characters. He was a man who refused to accept any limits on his ambition. He destroyed entire civilizations but also created lasting beauty. He was both monster and genius, destroyer and builder. His story reminds us that the most powerful people in history are often the most complicated ones, capable of both incredible cruelty and amazing achievements.